was, they worked on it together. And then they were displayed in the hallways, and it was like a big celebration for their work. I just think we need to get our kids more excited about writing, but I think it can't follow language arts. Like it just can't. They have, believe it or not, way more standards and way more substandards, and so they can teach the process of writing. But when we talk about everybody supporting, I think this is where you guys come in. Okay, so this sample that I printed, I really liked it. It walks through the whole, like, what are the expectations, and so this is kind of what I want us to come up with as the literacy team. What do we want? And they don't have to be this in depth. So how do we want this to look? What's our plan? What is our overall goal is to increase writing? But like this one is very lengthy. I like this. It tells you words that are not good.
Anchor chart.
Yes, and it tells you, there's some in here that talks about words that are good, and the more students see that, if they're writing in social studies.
Something very similar to
right,
that.
yes. So I think this one has a lot of really great ideas that we can look at and see what we want how we want to put it together for our building.
Definitely staying with like the same vocabulary kind of across the board,
Yes.
I think is very beneficial too.
Yeah, I think the key is start small
Yeah,
and know that it's gonna take several years.
it will.
When I first was at my last school, I had a new principal my second year, and she was all about building that literacy program. And so we actually, in the county of 28 schools, at one point we were like 23 or something. And we graduated like as a school, like, and it was not easy, and it was, there was some kicking and screaming at first, but little by little, we climbed all the way up to school number 1, and it was mostly
Awesome.
because the literacy stuff. I really
feel
felt
like that's gonna take us to the top. I mean, everybody always wants to win. We want to win.
Mhm.
So, but I feel like in our kids win because they are the ones who are leaving us comfortable with writing. So many of our students left last year, went to the high school honors class, and are like barely passing. And they were like the honors kids last year in the middle school, and so it's like it didn't transfer. The writing didn't transfer, and now they're all like, the first paper, I found my first paper, so what can we do to help that? What can we do to make writing more comfortable and less painful? Because for some students it is truly painful, and I get a lot of papers, like when kids have to come up and write, like they don't even spatially, there's a struggle, like they're not even sure
Like
where.
conversation.
Yes. And it's like this much of the paper. So the margin, there's the margin, and then there's another margin. And it's like, I just think we've missed some skills somewhere. From your experience, tell me what we can do to keep our teachers from kicking and screaming. Like, how can we make this a comfortable transition? What's a small piece that you think would be easy that we can start working on for next year to roll out, or even this year?
Yeah, the first step I remember us taking was really with the staff, like presenting, here's the importance of literacy. This is why we have to all be committed to this, but here's how it also doesn't have to be a big deal. It's like we all automatically do this. It's just being more intentional about taking those opportunities within your content to explicitly teach some of the things. The biggest thing that we started was, we called it Going Green, and we did that throughout our whole cluster. So it was a vertical initiative, and it was going green to the kids meant everything needs to be in a complete sentence, and we need to give details. Going green was all about giving details to your writing. So not just giving the answer, but explaining how or why. And that was just kind of an expectation in everybody's classroom. And so the kids, at first they're like, oh, you don't want to do this, but when everybody does it, and if you get a paper and you're like, you're not necessarily penalizing, but it's like, redo this for me real quick, or add some details, then they're like, okay, everybody's doing this, we've got to do it.
Yeah.
And that was our first major step, was just Going Green is what we called it, which we could rename it something else. And then you know, in the staff, we read a book called Results Now by Mike Smoker. And he has a whole section in the book that is literacy, the importance of literacy, how it's tied in studies to, you know, those who are literate are more successful, those who aren't, you know, have higher rates of poverty, higher rates of incarceration.
Together, but we can kind of give each other feedback on what we see in each other's classrooms, because I think our teaching styles are kind of different, so the kids perform for us differently too.
And I spoke with him earlier today, actually, and he was talking about one of the like modeling the paragraph, scaffold writing.
Yes,
That's what I was trying to think
yes.
what he called it, and I thought that was a very good idea. So you guys have been
Yes.
working on some of those to put in both classrooms, so that's
Yes,
incredible.
he was telling me that was a great differentiation piece of saying like, hey, here's this sentence, and you know, you can gradually take it away from some kids, but the
Yes.
kids who truly need those sentence starters,
Yes.
it worked out really
I
well.
was really impressed with that. I think the science department will be able to use
Yes.
that tremendously. What about you? How do you feel about collaboration and working on a team, and is it helpful for you, or?
I think it is very helpful. I think, you know, there's the cliche, two heads are better than one, but even more, like even beyond two people, if you have a real true team, because you all play off on your strengths and weaknesses.
Yes.
And like Emily was saying, I don't know a lot about science, but I can back up the literary portion and the reading and the writing, where I would go in and help a science or math or social studies teacher. And they have strengths that I do not have. You do not want me to teach math.
Me either.
Or
Same.
science. Yes.
I think too that that takes some of the pressure off of them. Like
Mhm.
when we start talking about doing things school wide, you feel if that's not your cup of tea,
Mhm.
then you automatically put up some barriers and you're like, oh, this is gonna be terrible. But I think if they know somebody's coming alongside that has that experience or that strength, I think that's helpful for them. How do you feel like being part of a team makes you a stronger teacher? And I think we've all kind of already said that.
Definitely.
Just because it's kind of like more bang for your buck. You're getting that
Yes.
science. And one thing I liked is being able to, you mentioned it, bring in the concept that you're working on with your writing into science. And I saw Mr. Bennett today had all of the like writing stuff up on his wall in his class, and the students were working on a test, and it was complete sentences. It wasn't yes, no, you know. So I love that's already
Well, just
being ingrained into
basically
students.
reinforcing those simple things, because I know some people, you know, we're not comfortable teaching math or science and
Right.
some of topics in social studies, but I think we've gotten everybody more comfortable with teaching the basics of reading and writing, because it's something we can all use in our curriculums. Because even in math word problems, you have to understand what it's asking you, and that goes with comprehension. Yes, there's math vocabulary, but I think it really helps if we all understand and comprehend. So reading and writing are not as big a beast in my mind as like a math or science curriculum might be, because it's so specific.
Yes. So when you think about this small amount of collaboration that we've done so far, and how that it's impacted us in a positive way, do you think that creating a more collaborative culture in our school would bring about positive effects?
I think so. I mean, I think people enjoy working with others, and in our school, and also that vertical piece of working with 7th and 8th grade teachers is very helpful. So not only just a collaborative among your grade level, but the vertical piece, and even like cross-curricular, like, hey, what are they doing in 8th grade? We're just all working together. I know it's difficult to find the time to give everybody to collaborate all the time, but I appreciate on our work days that we do have more time to like really focus. So that is beneficial.
And how can we include our connection pieces and not make them feel like they're not part of the collaborative team? I know PE and weightlifting have no desire to become part of the reading and writing team. But what can we do? Which Coach Stockwell does read a book. He does read,
yeah.
so he does bring that in. But what can we do to include them in? I'm sure you have some great ideas.
I think, just as Emily said, the collaborative time that we get during planning days and just bouncing ideas off of each other. We could come up with all sorts of amazing ways to get, because you can feed literacy into everything. Reading and writing is such a huge part of life, and I think just give them the time. And I think Connections is such a big it's such a big sort of family feel anyway, that nobody's going to think, oh well, here's extra stuff we have to do. It's going to be like, how can we help you do this?
Yeah.
I think there's a big, and that's something that you've done, is that you've built this team of people. You know, we have the 7th grade and the 8th grade team, and then the Connections team, but really we're just one big team.
Yes.
And it's really nice too that during that extended learning time we have built in during the day right now, that we have Connections teachers who come in our classrooms and help reinforce that, because even though Ms. Herb is the art teacher, she is very willing to help the kids with writing and with, you know, grammar skills, and she's like, hold on, it'll take me a second, because that's not her world, but she is so supportive in helping the kids. So I think it's been just a collaborative team effort all together anyway.
Good.
So I'm thankful that she's in there.
Good.
And I think even beyond the curriculum portion of it, the kids get to see us working as a team and get to see us working together.
And that was kind of, I wanted the connection teachers to be a part of the classrooms and see maybe the student who struggles in your area may do something phenomenal in her class, and when you go in there, then that gives you something to connect to that student with. And I think I don't ever want students to discount the value of Connections. Sometimes they become the fun classes, and so seeing them in a classroom helping, I think, has changed their mindset some too.
Oh, yeah.
And even vice versa, I know I can name a handful of kids who really struggle in the content classes, but then they'll come to say computer science and they're a whole different person. So it's just playing off of their strengths and weaknesses as well.
Yeah, and it gives you the opportunity to say to the teacher, hey, I'm gonna tell you, I tried this in my class, it worked wonders with the student, you might want to give it a try. And I think everybody here this is an amazing team of people. They will do whatever to help the students, so I love that.
I know you've even emailed me before and said like, hey, I hear this kid does well for you, what can I do to help him in my class too? So it works better when we all work together because it's about the kids and helping them.
Definitely. What do you feel that I can do to help continue to foster collaboration? What is something that you feel, and I know it, like we talked about before, it's little steps, and we have to, nothing is ever done, Rome was not built in a day, so we're not gonna get, you know, everything the way we want it in a day or even in a year. But how can I help to continue to foster collaboration, like having the teachers come in and having them be a part of the classroom stuff without it feeling like it's another burden or giving you extra work?
I think, and we already mentioned this, but the collaborative planning is so key, especially on work days, because everybody's all relaxed and we don't feel stressed or hurried, and we really have time to open up and talk about curriculum and our goals. And our goals are all the same thing. We want the kids to be successful.
And I know we have like county standards that we should follow for every meeting, like excellence in this and excellence in that. At a previous school, we like kind of had goals established for that meeting or norms. So that might be nice to just like keep the focus of our collaborative planning, like, hey, so this is almost like our learning objective, what we do with the kids. Like, hey, this is what y'all need to do by the end of this meeting. So almost like the agenda, but having more of a goal in mind of like, this is what we should accomplish before, you know, I mean, obviously not by the end of the day because it's such a process, but within like a quarter, what progress have we made toward this goal that we set, you know, during pre-planning?
Okay.
So that would be nice to have like, and we do that through our TEKs with our individual goals.
You set your goals,
Yeah, but I think it'd be nice to have like almost collaborative goals.
So maybe set at pre-planning, us sit together and come up with our year-long goal for our department.
Sure.
And I know for Connections, I'll say, like when you guys have your meeting, then or your content area meeting, we call it, and then I will say, by the end of this, please have everything on the calendar. I kind of try to give them because they're not all the same content, so
Right.
meeting together sometimes is like, how are you?
Right.
But I do, I agree, I think that's a great place to start, and that we can do, that's something very easy to do.
Oh, yeah.
Look at pre-planning next year and talk about each content area.
Yeah, it'd be like a targeted focus.
Yes, yes. So
I
I
like
think
that.
we've about got our pacing guides tweaked and
Yes.
ready to stick with. About the time for them to roll out some new standards. So, but it would be, that's something I know has been a working process the last couple of years. And then you had to pretty much write your whole curriculum, so.
I did. And then I rewrote it because I
Oh,
wasn't
yes.
happy with it. But it has worked really well.
Yes.
I've learned a lot.
Good. So as we now branch out and move forward with our writing and integrating it into each content area, and I've asked each person to go to their content area and work with them kind of what we talk about here. How do you feel that's going, collaborating amongst your own, with your language arts anyway? So I feel like you guys, instead of having to do the new stuff, y'all are having to kind of come alongside and help. And then the support that you had some really great ideas to share, which we may, like, I think putting them all together in one place and dispersing that would be a great idea for all our people that aren't literacy minded. Math, reading scares math people, and math scares reading people. And so, it's just, but I think if they have something in hand, so I just really gotta work on the word problems, or I just really need to spend a little time here, or if I have